Hello class, Mr. Greeno here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add pages to your website. So here's my website folder. It should be the same as yours. Have a couple pictures. Have our main.css. That's our external cascading style sheet that sets up all the styles for our website. We have a test page and we have an index.html page. The test page we left there, even though we don't really need it anymore, but we left it there so that if we ever want to open it in Notepad, we can look at some of the code that we use to do some things like hyperlinks and styling and inserting pictures. Okay, and here's our index.html page, which of course is our home page. That needs to be named index.html. And in this file, we have all of the information necessary to have a web page. So we got our doc type, our language, our HTML tag, and this head, and linking to our style sheet, and our character set, our div wrapping stuff in, our navigation, section ID is where we're going to put all of our content. So everything here is looking good, and we want all our pages to basically be set up the same way, except inside the main section is where we're going to change stuff. That's where all our content goes that makes our pages different. But as far as the navigation structure, everything should look the same. And again, this since we only have a limited amount of time to get a website up and running so we could illustrate our animations, pretty much focusing on a desktop PC version of a website. So this will look good there. It'll work on mobile stuff. It just won't look so great because we haven't tried to accommodate for that. Some things that I want to just make sure I clear up. I think I might have only had here animations, but I edit my animations if that is the case. And also, I'm pretty sure about this. I don't think this is the best of spelling, not that it really matters so much, but I might forget to call it or type it the same way in the future because this is kind of silly. Memorable movies quotes, so it should just be movie quotes. So I'm going to change that. So when you take a look at your index.html file, make sure everything is the way you want it to be before we start making pages from this page, because then we'll just have to change things multiple times. So we got everything right here, everything spelled right. We want it to say my animations, but it's not really my memorable movie quotes, which I guess it could be. It should just be memorable movie quotes because they're memorable for lots of people. My favorite video games, you could just say favorite video games, best video games, whatever. And my favorite sports team, my favorite athlete, whatever. And again, these two pages, the home page and the page for your animations, everyone needs to have those two. However, these three pages, although you have to add 3 pages so that it makes it a website, please don't add the same 3 pages. I mean, if you're really into video games and you want to make a page about video games, fine. But don't make the same 3 pages I made. Make pages of topics that interest you, not topics that interest me, because when I put these the websites of all the students on my website, I don't want them all to be the same. That's kind of boring. I want them all to be different and look different so that people can enjoy looking at them. Okay, so do your own website. Don't do my website. All right, so now that I have this all set up the way I want it, the way it looks good, the way I hope it's going to be as I go forward, I'm going to save my index file. I'm going to close that out. And now what I want to do is make a copy of this file and then rename it. So the way you can copy it, there's a bunch of different ways in Windows to do lots of different things. So let me show you a couple ways. If you click on it once, and then you click the copy button while you're on the home tab, and then you click out in the white area, and then click paste, you get a copy of that file, index-copy. And then you can wait a couple seconds and click on it, and it'll be selected in there so you could rename it. So I'm going to rename it animations. I could put my animations, but I'm going to keep it short and simple. Animations, and then hit enter. There's another way you can copy this file and make another one from it, is if you right click on it, and I mean right click on it, not over here, because if you right click over there, you're really right clicking in the white space. You haven't right clicked on the file, and you don't get anything that says copy because there's nothing to copy because you right clicked in an empty space. But if you right click on the file, then you get a different menu. Then you can choose copy. Now if you want to paste, again, you're going to paste into the folder, not onto the file. So this is different, or kind of opposite. If you right click on the file this time, you don't get the menu you want. You don't see any paste here. You need to right click out in the empty white space, and then you get paste, and then you can say paste. And then you want to rename this. If you remember, my next page was, and this time I think I'll spell the whole thing out, memorable movie, and this is why I renamed it, because movies didn't make sense, and I'd probably spell it differently here, and then it wouldn't work because a link to a page that doesn't exist just because of the S, whether it was movies or movie. Okay, so I'm looking, memorable movie quotes, looks like it's spelled right, hit enter. And the last way you can copy, probably the way I do things most of the times, click on index, hit Control C on the keyboard, click in the white space, hit Control V for paste, and then click here, and I'm going to put video games. And make sure you spell these things right or it won't work. Spell it the same way you spelt it on the link is really what you want to do. If you misspell something the same way all the time, that actually is okay. Just got to be consistent. Video games. And then I want to do my favorite sports team. Because I already have this on the clipboard, if I just click here and do Control V again, it pastes it again. And then I'm just going to put sports. So now if I've spelled everything correctly and my links on my index page were right, all of these should have the same navigation structure. So I should be able to open my website now by double clicking on index and go from one page to the next. They're all the same right now, but the hyperlinks on the navigation should work. So let's check it out. So here's our website, my animations. It kind of goes, you can see it flashing. So all these work. And I can go back and forth and click from one to the other. So no matter where I click from which one, they should all work, and which they do. Okay, so now let's go and make one of our pages. So let me close this out, and I think I'll work on my favorite video games. So video games over here, I'm going to open that in Notepad. Okay, and here we have our navigation structure, all the stuff we wanted up top, but what we want to change is stuff inside the main section. First thing we probably want to change, one thing we do need to change up here is the page title has to be different. So this is going to be my favorite video games, which is also going to be our heading. So I'm going to copy this because why type it again? And down here, paste that in. So if we save this and then open up our index page and click on my favorite video games, you'll see my favorite video games is here and also on the title up there. So now we're going to minimize this, and now we're going to add the content to our main section. So content would be normally in a paragraph tag, right? So our starting paragraph tag, and then we type some stuff, and then we close our paragraph tag. And if we save this and go to our favorite video games, here's our stuff that we typed in. Okay, but we don't really want that to be there. So, and something I'm noticing is that my favorite video games is all the way to the left, my heading, but I kind of want it in the center and then my text and everything to the left, which if we go back over to our main.css and open that in Notepad, we'll see that in our main section, we never said to align anything anywhere, so browser default would be to the left. So here we're going to do an inline style to override that, because I think I like my heading in the center. So here's my heading. I'm just going to say align equals center, and that should be in quotes. And probably after your heading you might want a break or two, so let's put in a BR tag, just one, and see how it looks. I'm going to save that, double click on, and you can double click on index and then click the hyperlink, but since we know we're working on the video games page, I can just double click that and see how it looks. So that's kind of what I want, right in the center here, and then my text is going to be over there. So close this out or minimize it, because you can always just refresh and then go back and continue work on this. Now this isn't the text we want, obviously. Duh, just type that in for the heck of it. The text I want, well, I typed it all in. I don't want you to sit here and watch me type. So I'm going to copy it from where I typed it, which is in a Word document, which you can do it that way if you like. And I'll paste it in over here. And let's see, so Word sometimes tries to select everything, so be careful when you copy paste. So I started playing video games in the 70s, yada yada. You don't need to read all that. That's my first paragraph, but I have another paragraph, so I'm going to put in a break, because you want a space between your paragraphs. And then my next paragraph, I'm going to copy and paste that in. But you guys don't have this stuff, so you're going to have to type it in or copy and paste it from somewhere, depending on what you're putting in your web page. So I'm talking about my friend Speedy McGreedy, who was in the Guinness Book of World Records, playing in an arcade. The NES came out in '85. People started playing stuff at home. Okay, so those are my two paragraphs with no pictures, no anything, just text. So let me file, save, and then show you this so far. So it looks like this. Okay, so notice how the border is going down and the white area, well, sandy kind of color area, is going down as I add content. So this is only as long as the content is. So that's why on the test page we did a bunch of enters just to push this down. We didn't have any content other than saying this is a test, just to see how long it would go. Okay, so let's, well, that's because I should have left this open and just hit refresh. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to add a picture. So how do we add a picture? Well, you need to have the pictures in your folder if you want to add a picture. So how do you get them in your folder? Well, I'm not going to show you how to do that. I think you know how to do that. You got to go to the internet somewhere and do a search and find the pictures and save them to your folder. And we've done that before. So what I'm going to do is I have a folder with a bunch of pictures in it, and I'm just going to copy them over here. So I have, go back to my folder over here. I've copied them all from my other folder, and I'm pasting them in. So I got a bunch of pictures. Battlefield 1942, some Black Ops things, some other things, content that I know I'm going to use in my website. So the first picture I'm going to put on is going to be this Star Wars Jedi Academy .jpg. And so the code for that, and I guess after this paragraph I would want another break. And don't worry, I'm not going to type the code for every single picture, but just the first one. And I like to put some spaces in so I can scroll this up a little. Okay, so the code for this is, we are going to have a new paragraph. So start with your P tag. Then we need our image tag, img, and it's src, not scr. I see that a lot. People type scr. src, it's the abbreviation for source, equals, and then I need the name of that file. Now, I can type it in here, but it needs to be the same way it is in my folder. So I'm going to go to the folder, click on this, click on it again, wait, highlight all of it because you need the JPG. Control C to copy. Back to here, Control V to paste. So now it's exactly correct. close the quotes. I'm not going to put in any special attributes right now, because I'm going to show you how it looks without doing any attributes. Okay, and then close my p tag. And then save this. And then go back over here and refresh. And so there's my picture. Now I'm going to have some content over either on the left or the right. I think I'll put this picture to the right and put my content to the left. So this picture is kind of big. Maybe I want it to be a little smaller. So let me minimize this. If I go to my folder, I say, well, how big is this picture? Well, there's a number of ways you can do it. I think the easiest way is if you go to View, your View tab over here. So if you were on your Home tab, click View, and then click Details pane. You'll see it's 640 by 480. Well, maybe that's a little too big for my area that I'm putting it in. So let's say I want to cut down 40% of that. So how would you do that? Well, I would use a calculator. So I'm going to go over to Start button, scroll down to C, Calculator, open that up, and I'm going to take the first number, 640, and multiply it by 0.6, and that gives me 384. So that's going to be our width. So let me minimize that and go back over here and now add some attributes. So first thing we should always add is, just in case the picture doesn't load for any reason, or a blind person is looking at our website and using a screen reader, he can't see the picture, but it would read this off to him. So you could put something like Star Wars Jedi Academy picture. And then we'll do our width property. So width is equal to, and in quotes, and by the way, I think most new browsers, if you leave off the quotes, they still work. It's really for old browsers. But so let's do it the right way. So the width I remember 384. And then the height, well, that's going to be equal to, well, what should that be? Well, you know what? Let's leave the height off for right now. Let's just leave it like that. So we're only setting the width. So let's save that. And go back here and refresh. Okay, so it shrunk it down by the width, and the height probably proportionally, since you didn't put it in. But let's say we did put it in, because we probably should put the width and the height. It's a good idea. And let's say we do 0.6 in our head and we mess up, and instead of getting something smaller than 480, we accidentally put in 1,000. I don't know, I'm just putting that in just to see. And we save this, because we can put in any number we want. And we refresh this. Okay, it gets all stretched out because we made the height way too long. So the height should be reduced by the same amount that we reduced the width. So if we go back over to our page, our File Explorer, we'll see that the width was 640. We multiplied by 0.6. The height is 480. So let's go to our calculator and take 480 and multiply it by 0.6 as well, and we get 288. So that should be our height, to keep the same aspect ratio, so it doesn't get too high or too wide depending on the numbers that we put in here. So now let's save that, and it probably will go back to the way it looked before when I only had put in one number. Pretty much so, I think. But you should put in two numbers, because that's the best way to do it. Let's go and add another picture. Sorry, before we add another picture, let's put in that, remember I said I wanted it to go to the right. So before the source, before we call it the source, we have to style it. So I'm going to put in style equals, and then in quotes, I'm going to say, and this might be a little bit old, put in some spaces so you can see what I'm typing here. We're going to float the picture to the right. You can still see this stuff on a lot of web pages. And then close the quotes. And then And after the float, we're going to call out the source, and let's just see how this looks now. Put in a space. And refresh this. So it pushed it over to the right. And then and of course the border is not bumping down, but we're going to fix that as well. And really, we want the text to flow around it, and the reason why you push it over to the right is to let the text flow around it a certain way, I should say. But we don't have any text just yet, do we? No, we don't. So let's put in some text. And right now, there's kind of something missing. Here's my opening angle bracket for my image tag. And if you follow all the way across, I never closed it. So that should be over here like that. And then therefore, the image tag goes from here to here, but the paragraph starts here and then comes after the image tag. So right here in this space is where I can put my text. So I don't expect you to watch me type in all my text, so I'm going to go and copy it. So these things right up against each other, I'm pasting in my text, and I'm talking about what I like playing Star Wars games. Okay, so let's save this, and then refresh this. So you can see it's over to the right, and the text that I just put in flows around it to the left. And you might say, well, gee, this text might be a little close to there. So you not only could, but you should put in some margins to allow this to not be so close to the picture. It looks a little better and more obvious when we put in the next picture. So let me put in the next picture first, so it illustrates it better. So after this paragraph with the picture, I'm going to put in a line break and then go put in my next picture. I have my next picture, all the text I need, all the code I need to make that work on my clipboard, and I'm going to paste that in, and you'll see that it's sort of the same stuff, but image style, this time I'm floating to the left. My source, I have in my folder a picture called COD blackops2.jpg. I have my alternate text, Call of Duty Black Ops picture. I have my width of 384 and my height of 218 specified. And then oops, this shouldn't be here, sorry. I'm going to put that in a second. And then I'm closing my A tag. And then here's all the text. And then there's my closing paragraph mark. So let's go and save that. And then take a look at it. Okay, so you can see I got one picture floating to the right, one picture floating to the left, and the text floats around both of them. Notice though that this text right here, it's right up against this picture, and that doesn't look so good. Inside this border, we have padding. Outside the border, we have margin. So notice that nothing goes right up against the border because in our main.css, I'll open that up for a second. Somewhere we put that. Our main section has a padding of 15 pixels all the way around. So nothing ever goes right up against the border when we're in our main section. Okay? But our picture doesn't have a border, but we want the text to not be right up against it. So there's two ways we can do it. We can call, if we did have a border around it and we had padding, then the padding would be between the picture and the border. That wouldn't really make sense. Actually, let's take a look at that. So what if in here we were to say, if we were to say border not equals, colon, blue, solid, 10px. save that and then take a look. Okay, so we got a blue border around this, 10 pixels. And then if we were to go into here as well, put a semicolon, should add a semicolon there anyway, could always end with a semicolon. Put a space and say padding, colon, let's say 25 px, always end with a semicolon. And say file save. If we bring this up and we refresh it, so the padding is in here. Well, we still got our text right up against our border. I don't even know if you want a border on the picture. So that doesn't really look good. So we come in here, sorry, we come in, too many things open. Let me close out this main thing since we don't need this right now anymore. Here we go. So instead of padding, we might want to call it margin. And save this. And then refresh this. So here's our border and here's our 25 pixels all the way around. Except for, I think over here, this looks a little bit bigger than this over here. And that's because our main section has a padding in it of 10, or 15 rather, and then we're adding a margin around the picture of 25. So really, we don't need a margin on our left side. That's already working by our padding. So how do we accommodate for that? Well, first of all, I'm going to take off the border because I just used that for illustration purposes to show you that you should be talking about margin. Let me save this and then refresh. So there's just a picture without the border. This side's got a little bit more gap, and I probably want this picture aligned with this text, right? So I don't want a margin over here. And I already accommodate with the padding of the main section that it won't hit the blue border. So what I can do is call out each side of margins, meaning top, right, bottom, left. Because when you call out these numbers, it goes from the top and it goes around clockwise. So on the top, and 25 looked kind of big, so let me make it 15. Actually, let me make it 10. So the top is 10. I'm going to make the right 10. I'm going to make the bottom 10. But I'm going to make the left 0 because I already have 10. I already have 15 on the padding. So let's see how that looks. So there we go. It's lined up over here. We have a little bit over here, a little bit of margin. Okay, this picture doesn't have any margin. You can see it there. Sometimes it's hard to see on the right side of the text because the text may end because the next word doesn't fit. The left side's aligned to the left, so it's much easier to see. But you can see this is right up against there. This is right over there. So what we should do is on this one where we float it right, we should have a margin as well. So, or margins, I should say. So I'm going to copy that, go inside of here, and paste it. Give myself a space so I can see better. But we have to adjust this because we want the same 10 on the top. But we don't want 10 on the right because this one floats to the right. And on the right side of a right floated picture, we already have the padding over here. So we don't need any margin over there. So the right side over here should be 0. The bottom should still be 10, but now the left should be 10. So if we save this and then refresh this, you'll see we got a little bit of gap here, a little bit of gap there, gap all the way around, so it looks kind of good. Alrighty then, something else we should point out though is the reason why you specify, if I hadn't told you this before, some good reasons why specifying the width and the height of a picture is as the page is loading, it specifies and sets up a box the size of the width and the height that you call out while the picture downloads. And that's a good thing to do because it sets up the page, formats it correctly before the picture downloads so that the things don't jump around. Especially, you see that especially a lot on like cell phones, and I kind of hate that. So specifying the width and the height kind of helps in that regard. One thing you do have to watch out for, even though we are making this really for a desktop application. People can still look at your website on a cell phone. As I think I said, it just won't look so great without accommodating for a cell phone usage. But the thing that you should also look out for is you're calling out the width and the height, but it's still downloading the full-size picture and then just shrinking it. So we really should shrink the picture down first so that we have two files of the picture, the small one and then the bigger one. And let's see how that would work. Okay, kind of got interrupted there for a couple of minutes. So I'm picking my video back up where I think I left off. So if something's a little choppy, please forgive me. So we're talking about the size. We have the width, but something we haven't talked about is what if your picture is much, much bigger than this? Okay, so I said 384 by 218. The picture that I'm using over here, I'm using Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And if I go here, you'll see that it's 1600 by 900. Now, I think I kept the aspect ratio because if I take 384 divided by 1600, I multiplied by 0.24. So if I multiply that by 900, I get 216, which, okay, I put 218. So somewhere around there was right. So 218, 216, maybe I just made a typo. But if you didn't realize this, it's still downloading the full size picture. It downloads this picture and then it resizes it to this size. Now it does set up the boxes on the website, like on a phone or something small or something even slow. It's going to set up the boxes to be this size and then put the picture in it, and it's going to set the picture to be this size to fit in the box exactly. But it has to download this picture, which is 1600 by 900. It's not really that big of a picture. It's not a very big file size, but basically if you take a picture with a really good camera and it's a couple of megabytes and you don't do any editing to it, then every time someone goes to look at your picture, they got to download the really big picture and it just slows down your website. So what should you do? How can you correct that? Well, I would open this in Photoshop. And rather than use this big picture, if I just say image size, and you'll see that here's the 1600 by 900. If I make this 384, you'll see it automatically changes to 216 because this says keep the document size, constrain the proportions basically, or this says lock it, and this says constrain proportions. So if I leave it like that and say OK, and here's my small one, that's the size of the box that I want to use. So if I do File, Save As, and in this one name it Black Ops 2 and then just put an S on the end for small, and it's saving into my website, so that's good. So I click Save, and I don't know, whatever these things are, just leave them on the default and say OK. So now if I go back to my website, you're going to see I have a Black Ops 2 and a Black Ops 2 S. So on this one, I'm going to make it the Black Ops 2 S, so that now it only has to download the little picture. So now if I save this and then refresh this, well, it looks, actually, if you saw it, it might have jumped just a little tad there, a couple pixels, because we made it the 216. Okay, so it looks exactly the same, but it'll load a lot faster. But what if this picture is kind of small and you actually want to see the big version of it? Well, there's a way to do that too. If we add some code into this, we can get that to work. And the code you want to add is a link. So we're going to add an A tag. Let me put some spaces over here so you can see what I'm typing clearly without that being up against it. So an A tag with an href, and then we're going to say equals, and it's going to be the same as this, but without the 2. So if we want to copy this whole thing, I'm sorry, not without the 2, without the S, copy this whole thing, paste it over here, take out the S because this is going to be the full-size picture, right? And when you click on it, it'll show you the full-size picture. Now, you don't always have to do this. I'm just showing you that you can do this because maybe the picture you have is small to begin with and there is no big version of it. So let me save that and refresh it. Oh, whoops, screwed something up there. And hey, this is a good instance to say, gee, can Mr. Carino mess something up? Yeah, sure. Actually, quite often. So I forgot to close my A tag, but guess what? An A tag is unlike an image tag. An image tag has no closing tag. Okay, so the image tag ends here. Okay, because it's only an image. But an A tag can have something in it, like an image or like some text. So this is my opening A tag, but I need a closing A tag, which I forgot to do. So over here, after the closing of my image tag, I need my opening image tag. So my closing angle bracket of my image tag. After that, I need a closing A tag. Okay, now that should work. So let's try it. And go back here. Let's see, when you mess things up, it put the whole link on all the text. And the picture disappeared. So let's refresh this. And now we're back to the right way. And when I go over the picture, I should get a hyperlink hand. And when I click it, it shows me the full-size picture. Notice though I've kind of lost my website. I mean, I can go back, obviously. And there's the website. I kind of like when you click on something, it opens in a new tab. I mean, you can right click and say open link in new tab and then go to the new tab and then close out the tab and you're still on the website. But we can also make that happen automatically for the user. And the way you would do that is after your image, just say, or after the hyperlink on the image, you say target equals, and then in quotes, underscore blank, which means open in a new tab. And I think it also means open in new. And the reason why I say in new is because some people have their browser set to open in a new window, a new tag. I mean, there could be some browser setting that might change that, but it's not going to open in the same window, same tab. Okay, so I have my browser setting always open things in new tabs because I don't want new windows opening. So let's try this and refresh it. And now when I click, it opens in a new tab. I see my picture. I close my tab. I'm still in the same space. Okay, now I'm going to finish off this page. I'm going to add some stuff here, and I'm not going to type it. I'm just going to copy it from what I had previously done. I'm going to click over here, paste it in, and what I pasted in over here is my last picture, or pictures I should say. So I have another break. My next paragraph goes from here to here. Oops. I have my image. I'm floating it to the left. First of all, I have my image tag, I should say. Then I'm styling it by floating it to the left. My margins on the top are 10, on the right is 10, on the bottom is 10. But on the left, since I'm floating to the left and I have padding on the left already, I'm making that 0. My source is my Battlefield 1942.jpg. Here's my alt, my width, my height, closing my image tag, but then opening a new image tag and floating. So these two are side by side, but I'm floating. Sometimes we want to put two, one on the left, one on the right. This one I'm styling float to the right. I have a margin of 10 on the top, 0 on the right, 10 on the bottom, 10 on the left. My source is 1942 screenshot. Here's my alt text, and then closing the second image tag, or with the angle bracket, closing the opening of the image tag with my closing angle bracket. And then here we have just all the text that's inside the paragraph, and then it's done. So I'm going to save this and then go over here and refresh, and you'll see that it put these two pictures side by side and it's got this text in the middle. And notice that my border doesn't go down past my pictures. And so the easy way to correct that, just put in some line breaks. So without typing, just copy this, paste it in down here. I'm going to guess maybe I need 5. So Control V, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. File, save, refresh this, and I guess maybe I needed 6 or 7. So how about 1, 2 more? File, save, refresh this, and that looks pretty good. You might say, well, gee, I don't like this little gap right here. Okay. So let's only have done it 6 times. File, save. So these things you fiddle with until you get it looking the way you want. Okay, so there's my page of my favorite video games. Like I said, if you had a picture that you shrunk down a lot, it's best to make 2. One's a thumbnail that you click on to see the bigger picture. Here's all your text that you copy paste it, your pictures floated left and right with your margins, everything looking good. Okay, so that's your video games page. This video is getting a little long, so what I think I'll do is I'll end it here, and then I'll have another video showing you how to do your memorable movie quotes, which we're going to do similarly, but a little bit differently. So join us for the next video. Thank you.